Hello and welcome everyone. This is Mike. I'm the founder and CEO of SuiteDash. Welcome to Academy Sessions. These sessions are designed to help you by learning directly from experts in our community who have hands-on experience with SuiteDash. What makes these sessions special is that they are hosted by SuiteDash experts from our community. We've given these experts free rein to develop these presentations based on their actual experiences helping SuiteDash customers just like you, and this allows for a truly authentic and practical learning experience. Each expert brings their own presentation style and perspective, and that's what makes Academy sessions so valuable. We've entrusted the host to shape the content in a way that best addresses the common questions and challenges our customers face every day. And this approach ensures that the information is not only practical, but also deeply connected to real-world use cases. Be sure to subscribe to SuiteDash on YouTube and follow us on all other social media channels to stay up to date on new features, announcements, and promotions. Okay, that's my intro. Let's get on with the session.
Today we're going to learn how the Projects Toolkit works for your business to help standardize workflows and streamline your operations. We'll also cover 3 key advantages of the Projects Toolkit, and we'll go about setting up your Projects Toolkit for success. Getting a 30,000-foot view of the Projects Toolkit, we have the ability to manually and via automation create projects both with and without tasks, as well as customize the visibility and permissions over tasks, phases, and projects as a whole. Now, the Projects Toolkit streamlines workflow automations by integrating tasks, task templates, projects, and project generators into a cohesive, all-in-one system, enabling you to standardize your recurring tasks, organize complex projects, and instantly generate structured workflows, saving time and ensuring consistency across your organization. The first key advantage of the Projects Toolkit is automated project creation. Predefined tasks, permissions, assignments, and settings can reduce setup time while increasing overall productivity. The second key advantage of the Projects Toolkit is streamlined task management. Task templates automate the generation of recurring tasks, ensuring consistency, clarifying assignments, and enhancing team collaboration. The third key advantage of the Projects Toolkit is that it promotes workflow scalability by allowing users to quickly replicate and modify project workflows as needed. To begin the application phase of our learning journey, we're going to start by creating our project custom fields. So we're going to head over from the dashboard. We're going to click on our profile there, and under Custom Content, we'll choose Custom Fields in the flyout menu. Next, we'll add a new custom field. We're going to label this first custom field Project Timeline. And I'm going to just copy and paste for the sake of brevity, nothing fancy. Under Usage, what we will do is we will choose Projects, and underneath Type, for this one, we will use the Date field, and we'll add it. The next 2 custom fields are going to be multi-line text fields. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a custom field. I'm going to label this Project Details. Copy paste. Under Usage, again, we're going to choose Projects, and under Type, we'll choose Multi-line Text Area, and we'll add that. Instead of going in and adding a new custom field, creating it that way, because I have pretty much all of the information that I need in this custom field here, I'm going to head over to the 3-dot menu under Options and select Duplicate. And we will just label this Special Project Instructions. Copy that, paste that there, Usage, Projects, Add. Fantastic. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our project generator with our task template. The reason why we're not heading right over into our forms and creating the update form, which will gather from the contact the information that we're requesting here, is due to the fact that when you go to create an update form, if you don't already have a project generator created, the update form, when you go to save it with the project level custom fields, is going to throw an error message at you asking for you to select the project generator that you want all of these different project level custom fields to be assigned to. So we're going to go ahead and head over to projects, and we're going to click on settings. So we're not going to start with project generators. We're going to start right over here where it says templates. And what we will do is create a new task template by clicking Add Task Template. New project. We'll just call this. And we see tasks and phases. So phases could be thought of as the designated mile markers, while tasks are the miles between those mile markers, or on the way to the next mile markers. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to create a new phase first. And we'll just label this phase Start Project. And we can add a description here. I'll just copy and paste this. The description isn't required necessarily, but that is an option that we can utilize here. With the status, we can choose from planned, working, blocked, waiting for payment, and completed. You can also create custom statuses as well, though this walkthrough isn't going through all of those minute details. Those are just options. Please let us know in the comments if you would like for us to go more in depth with things like this. That way we can tailor the experience to meet your needs, your requirements, and so forth. Because at the end of the day, we are here to serve and support you. So I'm just going to keep this as planned. The start interval would be, for example, we're going to start this phase within, say, 1 week. And we're going to complete this with respect to the end interval. We're going to complete this within, say, 2 weeks. In essence, doing this, what it's saying is we're going to start this phase of the project within 1 week after the project generates, and then we're going to, or project that we will have this phase completed within 2 weeks after the project is generated, and or after this phase has been started. We can also choose the option to auto-complete this phase when all tasks have been marked as complete. So when we create our task template, in this instance, we'll assign it to a phase, and once those tasks have all been marked as complete, selecting this option would automatically mark this phase as complete. We can also automatically change the project status to another status when this particular phase is set to complete. Let's say, for example, that this phase is the final phase before project completion. In that case, we can go right over here, select this option, and choose completed. And when this phase is set to complete, it's going to mark the project as complete. Same thing with the other statuses here. So I'm not going to select that. So I went ahead and created 2 more phases because we already know how these phases work. We're going to head right over here to tasks next. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new task. And we will say task number 1. Same with this, we can put the estimated time that it will take for us to complete this task and whatever hours we've already spent. If we did already spend some hours on this task, we can put a description here. Relative due date as well, we'll say 1 week. we can also assign this task to a particular person and prevent editing or reassigning of this task. And when we prevent editing or reassigning of a task, what this essentially does is give us yet a greater degree of control over the overall project workflow. As an example, you wouldn't want the logo designer, the graphic designer, to reassign their task to, say, the programmer. Similarly, when a project has very specific requirements and guidelines, you wouldn't want your staff member to be able to edit any of those specific guidelines and requirements for the task. So that's where this really comes in handy, preventing editing or reassigning of the task. You can set a default priority. You can even create new priority levels as well. Same thing with the types. You can preset a type, or you can create a new type. The statuses, you can preset the status as well here. And we can also designate the phase that this task will be assigned to. So we're going to have this task assigned to the start project phase. We can also add followers to this task. So let's say the project leader, the coordinator of the contact, and let's say the client. So let's say when this task is complete, in this case, the followers, the project leader, the coordinator, and the client will be notified that this task has been complete. Before moving on to this task dependency logic, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create 2 more tasks. I'll be right back with you. Now that I've created the 2 new tasks, task 2, task 3, and all I did to do those, because all of these tasks for example purposes are pretty much going to have the same information in them, I just went up here and I clicked on the 3-dot menu and I chose duplicate and then just changed, of course, the names of the tasks. So with that out of the way, we're going to go back down to our task dependency logic. And we see here the first option that we have is to prevent editing and marking as complete until the task dependency logic has been satisfied. And what we notice here once we toggle this option on is cannot start until this task has the designated status. So we can say, for example, task 1, the first task that we had, must have the designated status as completed, for example, before moving on to this task here. And again, this is a mechanism by which we get a greater degree of control over our workflow, saving us time, making sure that we don't have the organization running amok, so to speak. So this is what the task dependency logic allows for us. The next aspect of workflow control that we have here is this set due date based on when this task becomes visible via the task dependency logic. And zooming in just a little bit, we see 0 days means that the due date will be set on the day when the task becomes visible. Now, what exactly does that mean? Let's dive into that really quick. When we set this toggle here, we see a due date field, and we can set that to 0, and we see days. Now, this setup here, what this means is that when this task dependency logic is satisfied, in other words, task number 1 is complete, the due date of this task, task number 2, will be that exact same day with this setting. Mind you, this setting here with the due date being 0 days will also override the relative due date of 1 week that we have set up here. So I want to make sure that you keep that in mind as well when we are going through and setting up these task dependency logics. Now, let's say we take this due date and we say 7 days. What ends up happening at this point is that this task number 2 up here, will have the due date of 7 days after the task dependency logic has been satisfied. Furthermore, if we set it for 5 days, same thing. You also have over here the ability to assign weeks rather than days. Moving forward, we also have the option to link the start date of this task to the due date of another task. So let's say we toggle this option on and we link the start date to the due date of this task, and we will say task number 1 will be the due date that this task's start date will be linked with. Now over here we have this days of lag area, and we can read down here number of days lag / use negative for before. And what that means, it's not cryptic at all, is that with these 3 days that we have set for the lag time, the start date of task number 2 will be 3 days after the due date of task number 1 in this case. Perhaps you had a special circumstance set up whereby you needed this task to be started 1 day prior to the due date of task 1. You would simply add a negative value here. As you can see, -1 for before. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this dependency logic because it was simply for demonstration purposes here. And we'll just go and add that. Now that we have our task template set up with our tasks and our phases, we're going to move forward and create a new project with the task template that we created here. A quick note is that if you wanted to create a project and assign it directly to a contact, not via automation, you would go right up here to projects and manually create the project and put all of those predefined parameters in place. If you wanted to generate a project with maybe even a task template attached via automation, that's where project generators come in place. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. So we're going to head over to projects and create a brand new project. We have no project set here, so we're going to click this Add Project button. You can also click this Add Project button. It does the same exact thing. So we'll go ahead and add a project. Next, we'll give our project a name. We'll say Project Title. We can choose the status here. The current statuses we have set up are pending, working, blocked, and completed. We also have the option here to customize the project statuses or add new project statuses by clicking here. I'm not going to do that right now, though we can set the project start date, the estimated completion date, and the target time on the estimated completion date. So we'll just go up here and say the project start date is today, even though we don't have to set these particular parameters when we create our project. And we'll say the estimated completion date is going to be 1 week from today. And we'll just click done there. I'm not going to add a target time on the estimated completion date. However, you can do that. You can put a time frame here as far as a definite time when you project that this project is going to be done. Down here, we are able to add project information that will be relevant and visible to the staff members. So let's say, as an example, you wanted to add those project level custom fields that we had created in the beginning of this tutorial. You could simply go over to the placeholders here and select projects, and you can put all of that information right here. Project details, and perhaps let's go the due date. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove these. I was just doing that as an example, and the reason why I'm removing them is because those custom fields do not have any values attached to them right now. We'll get into that in a later section of this tutorial. Down here, same exact principle, except for this information is only visible to the client. So if you had a special message that you wanted to present to the client, perhaps even take the same placeholders that we did before and provide that information to them so that they have an overview, even though they're the ones that had put in this information for us to be able to provide for them. It just gives you a nice, clean interface so that you can clearly convey whatever messages that you need to about the project here. Earlier, I mentioned that when you manually create a project, you're going to need to directly assign the project to a client. That's exactly what you're going to do here. The options we have available to us are pre-selecting a client that is already within our SuiteDash installation. Secondly, we can click this button here and add a brand new client, send them a portal access invitation email, set their role, all of that great stuff. Now, if you choose to utilize this option, what you're going to have to do after you have created this project with this brand new client is go into the CRM, manually create a company, and then assign this new client, this new contact to that company. We have the option to assign secondary clients to this project as well. And a great use case would be, as an example, you have a main contact that you work with at ABC Company. You could say Bailey Brothers Building and Loan, and George Bailey is going to be the main person who sees the majority of the messages, pays the invoices, whatever the case, but he has, say, an assistant that also needs to see different things with respect to their account and the projects that you create. This is where you would do something like that. That's how I would utilize this particular functionality with secondary clients. Down here, we have our project assignments. You can choose teammates, so an individual staff member, an entire team, and you can set the project leader here. Now, we can see right here that it says assign any internal staff members, including designating a project leader. If we do not designate the project leader here, it will default to the project author if no selection is made. What that simply means is that if I do not assign a project leader here, then what is going to happen is, because I was the one that went in and created this project manually, I would be the designated project leader. Now, let's say you're in between project leaders right now, though you still need to go ahead and create this project for your client. You can still go ahead and create this project for your client. And of course, you're going to be assigned as the project leader. And then later on, as need be, you can go in and edit this project and assign a different project leader to this project. Moving down here to task and phase generation, we can assign that task template that we had just created in the previous step, or we can leave this as is. And when we create the project, we can go in and add new tasks manually if we wanted to do something like that. Moving forward, we have the option to apply a folder generator. And if you wanted to do that, you would select the folder generator that you wanted to apply. Down here, we have the project economics, so we can select a business sector. And business sectors are the custom labels or categories that your clients would fall under as it relates to their industry. So for example, you can have an overarching business sector for software clients, another one for landscaping clients, and so forth. That is where you would set the business sector here. And you can customize the options that are available in the select box by clicking here. So basically, you can mix and match the business sectors, create new ones, delete them, all by going here. And then if you wanted to assign a business sector to this project, then this is where you would do that. Here we can estimate the value of the project. So let's just say $10,000. We can say USD. And if need be, you can change the default currency for this setting by clicking here. We can also set an estimated time or time spent as required underneath this project/task value based on time spent. And when you do that, before marking a task as complete, whoever is assigned to that task is going to be required to input the time that they've spent on that task. And down here, we can trigger automations when the project is set to complete. Essentially, we have the option to apply any number of automations, even auto templates that we have set up by applying an existing auto template and choosing from the drop-down menu that's going to show up. Again, we have all of these wonderful options right here before us. That is as flexible as you need it or want it to be. And then down here in the other info, this is where we can set whatever our predefined parameters are with respect to the project level custom fields that we created earlier on in the process. If we need to add additional details or more project level custom fields, all we would need to do is click here, create a new project level custom field, and then when we come back here, that new custom field is going to be available to us. Down here, we can save and go to the list of the projects that we have. Let's say we have 4 other projects. When we save and go to list, this project that we've created is going to be number 5 on that project list. Additionally, we can save and go to the project. Doing this, what it will do is it will take us inside of this project that we are pre-creating here. This save and keep editing button, which is one of my absolute favorite small features here in SuiteDash, allows us to save our progress and keep editing. It helps us to measure twice and cut once. And lastly, we have this clear changes button. And what this is going to do is it's going to keep us within this project window, but it's going to clear out everything that we've put here. And so with all that being said, I am just going to clear the changes. And see, right here, we have a fresh, clean slate to work with. Moving forward, we are going to head over to project generators. So we'll go back and we will select generators from this top menu. We already have an example project set up right here. If we wanted to add a project generator, we would just click the Add Project Generator button. Or if we liked most of what we had set up in this example project here, we could go over to the Options menu and select Duplicate and then apply whatever small changes we wanted to from there. Now I will add a brand new project generator. And we notice with the project generators, we immediately see a couple of different options that we didn't see before. Don't worry, we're going to go over all of this different stuff here. So we'll give this project generator a name. We'll say New Project Generator. Now, a quick tip with this project generator name, you'll want to make it something familiar, something that is specific to the type of project that you're going to be working on, because this is the name that's going to show up when you utilize this project generator in automations. So keep this, whatever it is that makes sense to the particular project involved. That way you don't have to go back and forth and try to remember, what was this project generator for? What was that? And so forth. Next, we have this apply scheduling details. And by enabling these scheduling options, a whole new world opens up to us as we see down here, and we're going to get into all of that in just a moment. So we can automatically assign this project to either a particular client or a number of clients. Let's say you wanted to assign it to 3 different clients. By it, I mean this project generator. You can do that. You can assign a project generator to an entire circle. Let's say quarterly review clients. You may recall the video that we did recently on dynamic estimates. If you haven't gone and watched that, I highly suggest you do it. There's some great information in there. That in the dynamic estimate, when we had set that up, we had configured some predefined items. One of those items was a subscription item that billed the client on a quarterly basis, and it was for quarterly export documentation and compliance reviews. What you can do as it relates to this assign circles option in the project generator is attaching the assign circle automation to that item when an invoice is paid that has that item included. assign that particular circle to this project generator. And then in the recurring options down here, you could set the generation date for every 3 months, let's say. You could also, if you wanted to standardize something like that regarding the time frames, you could say specific dates. You could set the first generation date as, for example, in this case, April 1st, since we're heading into Q2, July 1st, November 1st. You could do that very easily here. That way it's standardized with respect to this quarterly billing, the quarterly documentation and compliance reviews, all that jazz. Of course, all of that is just an example of how you can creatively utilize the recurring options as well as the specific date. You can also utilize a custom field value here. Now, what you can do with this is, as an example, create a new company level custom field that is a date type custom field that says something to the effect of when do you want this project to start in an update form. That client then fills out that update form, lets you know when they want for you to start on this project. Then in the project generator, you can select that particular start date that you have set there. Moving forward, we have these auto generation details here as well. We have the ability to put a project name and use dynamic data placeholders too. So as an example, let's say new project generated for, and then we will add the company name. And every time this generator is utilized, it's going to already have this predefined information here. And you can mix and match and do different things with the dynamic data placeholders as you see and need fit, but that's just how I'm going to leave that. We can also do an initial status. So let's say pending, and we have, of course, the working, blocked, and completed as well. Down here, we have the option to configure the based on date for the project completion date. And reading further down here, I'll zoom into that. Project completion date is determined by relative values, which are expressed in the number of days after the based on date. So let's click on this based on generation date. And we see up here, I know it's a little far away. Let's zoom in on that. Project completion based on date will be set to the date of project generation. You can enter positive values to shift this date after the date of generation. Let's assume for a second that we keep this value here at 0. What that's going to mean when this project is generated is that this project itself and projected to be completed by this day here. In other words, 0 means today, period. Now we have the option to say 7 days, which at that point, let's say a project is generated with all of these different details. The based on completion date is going to be set 7 days from today. Additionally, here we have weeks as well. So we have this 7 weeks from now, assuming that the project is generated today. We'll just leave this here. We also have the option to set this based on completion date based on the value of a custom field. So here, we would select the date custom field for the project completion date to be based on. So we could set, as an example, I say preferred project start date here. However, you can utilize the project level custom field that we created in step 1 and say the estimated completion date falls within the time frame that the client needs this particular project done by. However, I went in and shifted that custom field language to say the project start date because that's a little bit more realistic. So we'll go ahead and we'll just save that. We have the same project information settings here that we did when we manually created the project. So we can, again, use the placeholders here, say project title, and say project details, so on and so forth. Same thing here with respect to the project information visible to the client. You can put all of those different things, whatever it is that you need to, in this box here. An initial project note. The labeling here is pretty straightforward. This is a note that the client is going to be able to see, as well as your staff members. They will be able to see this when they open the project. If, for example, you have the date set, the based on date set as the day the project was generated, you can also set this note to be shown based on the value of a custom date field as well. Down here, we have the option to allow clients to view project notes and allow them to create project notes. Toggling either of these options off will disallow them to view and or create project notes. Maybe you want for them to be able to view the project notes, but you don't want for them to create project notes yourself, just to keep everything as on track as possible. Furthermore, we have the project assignments, just like we did with the manually created project. We have teammates, we have assigned teams as an example, and the project leader. Again, with respect to the project leader, if no project leader is selected during the creation of this project generator, the author of the project generator is going to automatically be set as the project leader. So I'm creating this project generator. If I don't, say, assign Mike to be the project leader in this case, then by default, when this project is generated, because I was the one that created this project generator in the first place, I would be the one set to be the project leader. We also have the option to assign the project to the target's coordinator and the target salesperson as well, though those are just options. We don't have to toggle those options on. Down here, we have the task/phase generation. This is where we would apply the new task template, if we wanted to, that we had created 2 steps ago to this project. Meaning that when this project generator is triggered via automation, the task template and the phases that house those tasks will be pre-assigned to this project generator. Now, a really cool thing is that you don't have to assign a task template here. You could create a project generator that has no tasks and no phases assigned to it, and then via automation, assign task templates later on down the line to the project. That's really darn cool. Now, down here, we have, again, the folder generator option. You can select a folder generator if you have one already set up. We have the project economics here. Again, you can choose a predefined business sector for this project generator. Remember, business sectors could be seen as the industries in which your clients operate in. And we can set the estimated value of the project. We can say dollars and euros. We can choose the project task value based on the time spent. And as we recall, when we choose to set this option up here, before marking a task as complete, the person who is assigned to the task will be required to input the time that they've spent on that task. I'm not going to toggle that option on, however. Moving forward, we see trigger automations. We can trigger these no-code automations at different stages of the game here. So we can trigger automations when this project is generated. So as an example, let's say you wanted to inform a particular staff member or a team when this project generator is generated so they can begin doing whatever work they need to do and setting things up as they need to get this project underway. And we can trigger the no-code automations to fire when the project is complete. One use case that I can think of off the top of my head is notifying the client that the project is complete. Down here, we have project automations as well. Now, the project automations are different from the no-code automations in that the no-code automations allow you to apply flexible automations based on the project generation and the project completion. With the project automations, we can see here that we can automatically change the project status to complete when all tasks have been marked as complete. We can automatically change the status of all tasks to complete when the project as a whole is manually marked as complete. And we can allow or disallow teammates to see these task automations as well as freelancers. And down here, we have the other info, those project level custom fields that we had created in the first step of this process. And with that, we'll go ahead and click Create. Now we see here, and I did rename the project generator. Now we see here the project name, the name of this project generator itself, and if we need to, we can go right back into it and edit all of the different things that we just spoke about. Go ahead and save it, even though there were no changes made. Measure twice, cut once, always. In the options here, we can duplicate it, we can apply a folder generator, we can completely delete it, or we can view this project generator. Now, there are almost endless ways to apply this project generator to a specific client or via automations. You could go in, as an example, to the company directly. Let's go to the company CRM really quick. And under options, you would select this project generator, and this is going to pop up to ask you which project generator you want to apply to this contact, and you would just click apply. And we see that it's added. And let's go back to our projects really quick. And we see here that the new project has been generated for the Alan Brady Show. We see the progress here. We see the due date here as well. And we see the status. Now, we can go into that project and see what it is that we need to do, because remember, we set the task templates up earlier on in the process, and we attached those task templates to this project generator. So we see here task 1, task 2, task 3. So we have start project. Look at all of this. Look at all of this. We see the ability to mark this as complete. We have the ability to upload files to this particular task. If we had a folder generator pre-configured for this task itself, this is where we would be able to click on that and view it, as well as any timers that are associated to this task if we assign those timers to the task itself. Again, with respect to the automations, we would have the ability to click here and view any automations that we had preset in this task template for this task. We also have the option to copy the task URL. We also see up here that for my staff member account, my actions are limited to marking this task as complete, viewing and uploading task files, and adding comments to this task. Down here, we see the followers. So we have myself following this task, and we have the Alan Brady Show following this task so that they can see in real time what's going on with respect to this task. Down here, if I wanted to write a comment, new task comment, let's just say. If I wanted to add a comment, I can send an email notification here, and when enabled, the followers of this task will receive email notifications. So in other words, I would receive an email notification Let's say the project leader, if it was somebody other than myself, they would receive an email notification, as well as, in this case, the client, because they are designated as a follower for this task. Additionally, we can include this comment, so this new task comment would then show up in the email notification that is sent to all of the parties I mentioned. And all you would do is just click to add the comment once you have created your comment. You can also unfollow the tasks by just clicking this button here, and you wouldn't receive any of the comment updates and status reports regarding this task. Now, let's say we're done with this task. We're going to mark it as complete. Fantastic. The status over here for this task has been changed to complete. Now, let's say that we go into this task here, and we'll mark this task as complete too. Down here, we have task number 3. We can do the same thing with task number 3, mark it complete, but we also have this little box down here that says make a selection. And we can choose to edit this task, delete it, or invoice for it. Let's say we wanted the cliff notes of a particular task. Over here, you would just click this little button here, and you could see, again, the cliff notes, the priority, the title, the assignee, and so forth. We can also, from inside the project as needed, add a brand new task and do all of the different things that we did when we set up the task template, but this is a newly created task. And we can set this task to be recurring and how often we want this task to recur. Moving up here, we can see the project description, and clicking on the show button is going to give us the description of all of the different things that we need to know regarding this task. Up here, we have the Kanban view. The Kanban view, as we see here, is our 30,000-foot view of this project and where the tasks are in each stage of the process. Over here, we can see the tasks that we had just completed. Also, clicking on one of these tasks is going to show us the details that we saw earlier, but in the Kanban view. This is a nice, convenient way to do all of that. And you can even add a new status from here, very much like we're able to do with the deal stage pipelines. However, I'm not going to add a new status, but instead we're going to look at the phases of this project. The phases that we see here, we have start project, review project, project completed. All of this information has been pulled into this project generator by pre-assigning the task template that had the tasks and the phases built inside of it. From here, if we wanted to, we could add a brand new phase to this project, and we see all of the options available. And when we're done adding this phase, putting all of the information that we need to here, we can either just add the phase, or we can add the phase and assign automations to the phase. Now, I'm not going to add a new phase here. However, we're going to look at the project phase titled Project Completed, and we can see, again, the 30,000-foot view of this stage in the process. And we see the associated tasks, we see the assignee, the task title, where this task falls into the different phases, and we can manage the tasks as well. From here, you could select this task and either add this task to another phase or remove this task from this phase altogether. Up here, we have timers. And we can add a timer to this project by clicking either of these add timer buttons. We'll go ahead and we will create a new timer. Now, the timer can be manual or counting. In other words, This counting timer here is going to automatically track the time that we've spent, take our hourly rate, let's say it's 75 an hour as an example. We'll give it a title. We'll say project number 1 in this case. I won't put any notes here, and we can assign this, of course, to either the project or the task itself, and say task 3 in this case, but we're going to leave it at project, and we're going to save. As a matter of fact, before that, I'm going to label this counting. We'll save that, and we'll add a new timer, and we'll say project number 1, manual. Keep that there. Hourly rate, let's do 75. Now with the manual, we would set the date that we start this particular timer, and we would pre-configure the hours and minutes maybe that we've spent on this task or this project. That's how you would do that here. We'll say 12 hours and 30 minutes. We'll set the date for today and save. Now, how do we go about tracking the time when it comes to this particular timer? We would go right over here to this little lightning bolt icon, and we could say task number 1, duties. Not dutiers, duties. And we will set this number for 75 being our hourly rate, or whatever that hourly rate would be if you work on that type of a pay scale. Then we'll go ahead and we will start tracking the time. Now, we're going to open this back up because it'll automatically close for us. In order for us to tie this timer to this project, what we would do is we would go manage timer, this little clipboard icon next to this counting, manage timer, and we would say assign timer to project and new project. And it will assign this timer with the hourly rate and all that great stuff to this project. We can also assign it to a task as well, maybe task 3. And notice that what came up wasn't tasks 1, 2, and 3. That's because those tasks are already completed, and we can't assign a timer to something that's already done in this case. And I'll go ahead and just save that for fun and stuff. Moving forward, we have our calendar here. And we can see if we scroll down the tasks and when they are due by. And we can go right into the task itself. And from our calendar, we can mark this as complete, copy the URL, all of that great stuff that we were able to do before, just in another window for our convenience. We can even go ahead and attach files directly from our calendar as well. I'm not going to go ahead and do that though. And we see that timer that we had created just a second ago and assigned to this task right here. Now I'm going to exit out of this area here, and we'll move over to files. Even though we haven't attached any sort of files to this project, here we'll be able to view the files and upload them. If we added files, we can even search for them here. We see private files. Client cannot see project files in this folder. So if it's an internal set of documents, perhaps a workflow of some kind that the client doesn't need to see, this is where you would place those types of files. Public files, let's say screenshots of work that is being done with respect to the project, and the client needs to see those types of things. Or let's say the client needs to upload some files themselves directly to this project. This is where those files are going to be. Additionally, we have files in specific tasks. So at each stage of the game with the tasks, maybe one set of file types for one task that are designated to that task, and so on with the other tasks that you have set up in your task template in your project. We have Team Talk next. And Team Talk is essentially an interface where you and your team can speak about projects, about tasks that you're working on, and have it all inside of the project itself. That way you don't have to go fumbling around trying to figure out who said what and where did we put X, Y, and Z. The Team Talk is a great interface for making sure that all of these things stay in a nice little project basket, as it were. Now we have Client Talk up here, and Client Talk is essentially the same thing, except for it allows your client to send messages about the project that's underway inside of the project as well. So again, you don't have to go fumbling around about what the client said about this task in this phase and this file and so forth. They have the Client Talk capabilities here. That way you can keep everything nicely and neatly organized. Up here, we have the notes. And adding a new note, you'll click either of the Add Notes button. And here you can do all of those different things that you can with notes inside of the project and tasks and phases. And here you can set the visibility settings or share the note that you create here with a specific user. In this case, it'll be the client, the Alan Brady Show. And in doing so, you will also set a date for when you created this note. It's a great way to keep everything dialed in and on track and documented. You can also send an email with this note to the Alan Brady Show in this case after you have created this new note. You can also save it in draft as well if you need to. Maybe you're still trying to gather your thoughts around a particular thing that you need to communicate to your client. You would end up just saving this as a draft instead of adding it. Next, we have settings. Now, the project settings, in the case of this project, is specific to this project itself. When you modify these settings in this panel in the project that you're working on, it's only going to change the settings for that particular project, not all of your projects as a whole. If you want to set global project settings that's going to be standard across the board for all projects, you'll simply go over here and apply those global settings to all projects. Now here we have the ability to allow all assigned project users to see all of the tasks. Maybe you want to do that. When it comes to the client visibility, they are able to allow the client to see the project if it's archived. Let's say you've done 3 different projects with a particular client, and after you're finished with those projects, instead of deleting those, you would archive those to make sure you have a paper trail of what you've done over the course of your business relationship. Toggling this option on would allow the client to access that information from the archives. Additionally, you can show or hide the project progress and status to the client so that they can see from a percentage standpoint, whatever the case, where it is that we're at in the project itself. Sometimes you may want that. Other times it could be a case-by-case basis depending upon the client that you're working with, though you probably wouldn't want to create a micromanagement situation. So that, of course, might be on a case-by-case basis. Same thing with the Kanban view. If you toggle this on, it's going to hide that Kanban view and the clients won't be able to see that. Furthermore, you can allow and disallow the client to create project notes or to view the project notes. Moving forward, we have the file access options. We can allow the client to access the project files. We can let them upload files, download files. If we need them to, they can delete some of their own files, rename files, create folders. Again, that's going to be case-by-case basis depending on how the relationship is between yourself and your clients. We also have the option to allow freelancers as well, staff members with a freelancer role, to access project files in this case too. Moving forward, we have the project progress as well. calculate project progress using the percentage of tasks marked as complete. Let's say in this case you had 4 total tasks in this project and 2 of them are marked as complete. It's going to show the project progress as being 50% complete in that case. When we choose to display the project progress using a percentage designated by project phases, we see a couple of options here. We can automatically calculate this percentage, or we can set the project progress using a manual slide. And we see here, a slider is shown when editing a phase directly. Percentage complete is based on the number of phases and percentage complete in each phase. We also have the option to set the project progress using a manual slide as well. And we have the option to either use this slide here, or we can input a number, let's say 50%. And there we go. We have all of those different options available to us with the project progress. Project automations. Again, we have the ability to automatically change the project status to complete when all of the tasks are marked as complete. We have the ability to automatically change the status of all tasks to complete when the project is manually marked as complete. And we have the ability to allow and disallow teammates and freelancers to see these task automations. And down here we have the project dashboard. Reading the description here, the project dashboard lets you choose your client's experience. Options include the ability to display a logo or image, displaying the project title or description, progress, and more. You can also use this area to send project updates to the client and give them the option of being able to comment on those updates. So let's enable the project dashboard view. Here we see that we can personalize this specifically to the client themselves. Now, we can display the client logo. We can display any sort of welcome message that we want and include a paragraph below the welcome message itself. So the welcome message in this case can be welcome. And then down here it can be, here are some project details or something to that effect. Down here we have the option to display the project updates to the client themselves. So let's say you wanted to create a new project update. You would simply say update project. And you can notify the client that the project status has been updated, or permit the client to leave comments on the project update itself. You can also go ahead and edit and delete existing updates that would show here. Now we move on to the ability to update the project itself. We can go right back in here and do all of the different updates that we need to this project, as if we were editing the project from the projects menu. Now, before wrapping this up, I am going to show you one way as to how you can generate this project with the predefined details as required by your client. So from here, we're going to head over to Forms. And we're going to create a new update form. We will keep the usage as CRM targets, and we are going to label this project requirements, or whatever you need to label that as here. Down here, I'm going to add the company name, and I'll go ahead and simply pre-fill the value. I'm not going to do anything with any of that. Then, with our project custom fields, remember part 1 in this very long video, we had created some project level custom fields. So here we're going to add the project timeline, we're going to add the project details, and we're going to add the special project instructions. Now, down here, we are going to assign automations. And when we configure our automations, we are going to choose the Apply Project Generator, and the project generator that we created earlier is what we will choose. And then we'll simply update that and save it. Now, once the client completes this update form, it's going to have the project timeline that we set, or that they set rather. It's going to provide us some additional details and whatever special project instructions that they have available for us and what it is they need for us to do. I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful walkthrough of tasks, task templates, project generators, and projects. As always, please leave your feedback down below about how we can improve, because ultimately we are here to serve and support you and look forward to doing so well into the future.